is setting up standards that I'm sure many states are going to find it very difficult to follow. I must appreciate him and also his governor for the visionary ideas they have, in as much as they focus a lot more on their focus a lot more on human traffic movement, and I do not blame them. Because of the challenge we are facing with the issue of transportation and the issue of traffic in Lagos, and therefore we have to look for alternative means. So, Dami, well done. We are watching you, and you are doing an excellent job. Now, on my side, I will just very quickly run through what I need to just talk here. I come a lot more, even though I do speak from a legal perspective, I do also come from a regulatory perspective, and also being a participant in the marine and blue economy, I can also talk on the business and challenges which we are facing as a country. As we all know, and I don't need to reinvent the wheel or preach the choir, we know quite well the issue of our waters are controlled basically by international conventions, for which we have the UNCLOS, which is United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. We have the SOLAS Convention, which is the Safety of Life at Sea Convention, and we have the MAPOL Conventions. And then, of course, naturally, we have the International Seabed Conventions as well. These are some of the, these and other more are basically the main international conventions for which Nigeria is signatory to. Some we have ratified, some we have domesticated. But the bottom line is that we are also bound by these conventions, and it is things that we need to work by. And so therefore, it's very important that we also have this at the back of our mind, that we are guided by these conventions. Now, these conventions also are the basis of many of the opportunities that are available. Unfortunately, as a country, we have not taken advantage of our marine and blue economy. I always emphasize this in the sense that where there's a lacuna, other people always step in to take that. Now, we know quite well that there are two major organizations, which is the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, sitting in London, and we also have the International Seabed Association, which is also sitting in Kingston, Jamaica. And as we all know, that there are issues relating to the seabed is becoming a major area, because there are a lot of issues going on to mining. Now, let me put it in perspective, and we must understand this quite clearly. The PIA, as a law, only gives permission to the regulatory agencies, be it NUPRC or NMDPRA, to basically NUPRC to allocate acreages for oil. Okay? Now, NMDPRO regulates downstream operations and whatever the case may be. Whereas anything that touches the seabed has to do with the International Seabed Association, for which we are a signatory to and a member of that organization. So definitely, any drilling that takes on the seabed falls under the issue of maritime. So Nigeria has already designated an authority, which is NIMASA, to do that. That's only one aspect of things. Now, the issue of, in the event of pollution, if there's any pollution on the water, this is covered by what we call MAPOL. So effectively, anything that has to do with pollution also comes under International Maritime Convention, which is the Maritime Pollution Conventions. Then we also have the issue of safety of life at sea, the vessels, which is the FPSOs and everything. These are also controlled. So really and truly, if you look at the issue of oil production, except for the allocation of the license, everything else that has to do with oil production is basically on the table of the Maritime Administration, be it under, whether under UNCLOS, whether under SOLAS, whether under MAPOL and whatever. And these are things, as lawyers, we have to take on board very seriously and begin to fight for those, so that people do not encroach into our space and we do not seen as doing the wrong thing. Now, in order for us to be able to succeed in the marine and blue economy, we must abide by international conventions, for which, and you must allow me to speak truth to power, that we have the is like NIMASA. Now, unfortunately, and with all due respect, the transmission of NMA to NIMASA did not also carry the transmission of an agency to a regulatory agency. So unfortunately, the challenge we have is that the organogram is not in NIMASA based, which allows for the employment of staff into key positions, does not allow for the professionalism of the agency. That will be a major challenge, because if the institution is not strong, therefore they do not have the ability to actually regulate the institutions. And what is key right now, what we need to push as much as possible, is how can we begin to get NIMASA to set up an organogram and have a clear-cut job description with qualified people. Because if you go to the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, they don't have this problem, but NIMASA is the only place where you can employ any person and put in certain locations, certain positions that do not fit them, and they may not know what exactly the job is. Secondly, it's absolutely an imperative that NIMASA needs to become digital. The days of having to go to NIMASA to try to carry out this, and I'm saying this because we talked about challenges in the marine and blue economy, because they are the regulators. We must get to a situation where people are able to sit in their homes and have the opportunities to register, pay their bills, and get their certificate issued at their desk without having to walk to Apapa or to go to their VI office to do anything. And basically this has to happen, or else we are going to have major challenges, because we cannot continue with the human traffic moving in and out of the regulatory agency because they cannot focus on their real job. Also, the Nigerian Ports Authority, let's be very sincere to ourselves. The truth of the matter, quite categorically, is that we cannot succeed as a nation if we continue to run river ports. River ports are no longer it. Ship owners right now, most especially in the container area, and even if we look at it in the large area, they're looking for bigger vessels which can carry more cargoes, therefore reducing their economies of scale. Now, if you look at it, we have draft restrictions in places like Lagos, even though the channels are sometimes dredged to 12 meters and thereabouts, or sometimes up to Ibafun, and then they dredge all the way to Tinkan Island up to 12 meters. But after that, it's become a challenge. You go to Warri, you cannot access Warri because you are restricted to 5.9 meters. And then even if you go to the likes of Port Harcourt, you still have to go through the channel to get to the likes of Port Harcourt Refinery and the rest of the other areas. Now, in addition to that, you now have Calabar, which of course we have a restriction there, which is about 6.4 meters. And also we have a very long channel, which is almost, I believe, about 100 kilometers to get into the port. So Nigeria has to start thinking the issue of moving away from inland ports to deep sea ports. Now, the challenges which we have faced, most especially, like I said, is draft restrictions. Also the need for us to move away from river ports to deep sea ports. The issue of security challenges, the issue of war risk, which is being charged on vessels coming into Nigeria, which we continue to have that challenge. In addition to that, we also have the issue relating to the survey of the seabeds. We have not been able to carry out a major survey of our seabeds to know exactly what we have at the seabed. Most other countries, well, they call themselves first world countries, have done the survey of their own seabed, but Nigeria needs to get to that situation. Now, what therefore is the opportunities? I believe also one of the opportunities we fail to take advantage of is the issue of tourism. And the issue of tourism that we need to begin to look at, how do we begin to have cruise liners? I must say Lagos State is taking advantage of the Cowrie Creek, whereby I see people moving up and down the Cowrie Creek and having a good time and enjoying themselves. And that should be replicated in the sense that people, even if they come for their dated December, they should have the opportunity to take a cruise liner to the likes of Port Harcourt or Calabar to also have a feel of what is happening culturally and otherwise in our country, Nigeria. I have always said that the future of Nigeria lies in the solid mineral business. We are blessed with so much solid mineral, but like I keep saying that these are locked away in the northern parts of the countries, and these needs to be evacuated. But unfortunately, our River Niger, as a river, is only navigable for 6 months of the year. So there's need for us to begin to say, how can we make the River Niger navigable for at least 10 to 11 months of the year? Because it is not possible for us to mine the resources up north and move them down south by trucks. It will make us uneconomical and it will make us unable to compete in the real world. So those are one of the two things. And most especially, we've gone into the African Free Trade Agreement right now, and there are definitely a lot of requirement for vessels because there's going to be a lot of inter-African trade. And we know quite well that most of the countries are not interconnected by railway or by road network. Take, for instance, now, there are goods which are moving between Ghana and Nigeria, and they have to move by road between Lomé and Cotonou before they get to Ghana. And these are goods that can actually be taken by water in a ship away. Now, as we sit today, I can tell you quite categorically that Lomé remains the major, would I say, the ports. If you go online, go to Marine Traffic this morning, you will see the amount of vessels sitting outside Lomé in comparative to the kind of numbers in their population. You can know categorically like that. But you look at Lagos, which is really the main area of things, the vessels there. So something is wrong. And I believe it has to do a lot more with the overzealousness of our security agencies, who are very keen on arresting vessels or stopping vessels and do whatever. And no vessel owner wants his vessel arrested. So he'd rather go to the port where it's safe. And the cost of operation in our Nigerian ports are just too expensive for us to make it work. In the issue of fisheries, which is very, very key as well, because definitely we know of it, we hear of it, we know of large factory vessels which are coming to the Nigerian waters, they are dredging our fishing, and then they're actually just clearing out our fishing. And we have a very high rich fish reserve, whether it be prawns and whatever else. Now, one thing I also wanted to add, which I notice is happening quite a bit, it's a lot of fishing tourism. People are going deep offshore and they're catching barracuda, and people want to come in and want to go into the coral. Vessels which have sunk there have created a lovely coral in the deep sea. These are deep sea diving. These are things that many international people are looking for, which are virgin areas. And our waters are very calm for this. I can tell you categorically that going forward, Nigeria is going to be a net exporter. As a matter of fact, we would be able to have, a positive cash flow when it comes to our in comparison to our imports. But if we do not get our logistics and our shipping right, be the inland waterways, moving the cargoes to the port, building a deep sea port, building a solid mineral port where vessels of 200,000 tons can come in and load and things like that, I can tell you for sure that our goods will be uncompetitive because everybody's looking for the cheapest. Even though we might have the best quality of goods, we also may not have the capacity to be able to sell these goods because our goods will be considered to be too expensive. Whether we like it or not, we look at it in Nigeria. These are things that are going to expand to other West African countries or to West and Central African countries. But I can tell you for sure that accessibility by water to most African countries is very much there. And we need to, as a country, take advantage of it. We have the right laws, but unfortunately, we're not putting it in place. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we're having square pegs in round holes, which is not making things work. We do not have an agenda. And I must comment right now, we have a marine and blue economy policy, but what is the strategy of achieving it? What are the KPIs which have been put in place by government to ensure that these things are happening? So really and truly, what needs to happen very quickly is this. And the issue of funding is very much that there's money for this. There's money for it. Even our laws allow for money. We don't need to begin to buy vessels. Now, Nigeria must be the only country in Africa where you buy a vessel and you come into Nigeria, and as a vessel owner, you are made to pay duty on that vessel, which comes about 14%. So let's say, for instance, I buy a vessel of $10 million. I end up paying about $1.4 million in shipping costs or in duty to customs and whatever else to convert it to home use. Whereas you have other people, foreign ship owners, who come in here and they come in and apply under a TI and just put an insurance bond for which they pay 1%. And it's not even a cash, it's just a bond. So already I'm uncompetitive when it comes to pricing between me and them. And they themselves are already borrowing at 3%. And then I'm here sitting down here struggling to get a CVFA fund at 9%. So on the first instance, I'm 6% on my interest borrowing. And secondly, I'm here stuck to pay duties. We must find, although there are ways, the laws are out for us to come around this, but the bottom line quite simply, these are things that are going to stagnate us. We need to get to a situation whereby we do this. Many of our dockyards need to be made into free trade zones so that vessels can come in there, have them fixed and move away. We have to increase on our bunker operation. Nigeria also has some of the best products when it comes to sulfur content, 0.5% sulfur content. And we have that, but we're not taking advantage of those kind of situations. So these are the things that I can just highlight very quickly that would hopefully add to the value of Nigeria as add economically to us. And I can tell you, if we take advantage of this, we would go very far as a country when it comes to the marine and blue economy. So I just want to thank you for this opportunity, and hopefully I will hope to get some questions in here. Thank you very much. My alarm has just gone off. I just ran out of time. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Masayi, for those compelling insights, especially from the regulatory aspects of the maritime sector, and also with respect to so many weaknesses we can see in the system. Thank you so much, sir. Going to the question and answer section, I will have one or two questions for you before we go to the participants. The first question I have for you, Dr. Massey, is that coming back to Nigeria, we've seen your insights with respect to all that we have, all the potential we have beneath the sea in our water systems. But I want to bring it home with respect to the Cabotage Act. I know that you are instrumental in the passage of the Cabotage Act over 2 decades ago. Please, what are your assessment of its impacts, and what reforms do you think are urgent to enhance indigenous participation in the maritime economy? Thank you, sir.
Really and truly, I do not see very much wrong in the Cabotage Act. There's only one aspect of it that I have a challenge with, even though that is in courts. But I believe that really and truly, if our lawmakers were very sensible, they would have basically just amended that. Rather than us fighting and trying to do definition in courts, just basically correct that. And that has to do with the issue of rigs. Whereby the IOCs are claiming rigs as stagnant areas, whereas we know that rigs, even though they may not be vessels, but the law says that any movement, once they move, even though they don't have an engine, they fall under. So that's an area. But when it comes to the law itself, the Cabotage Act, I'm really, I must commend the drafters of that law, which is my senior brother, Olisa Bakova, senior advocate, and the rest of them. And it's an actually excellent law. The problem we have is the implementation and the execution of the law. And that is why I said to the aspect of it that we do not have people who are sitting in the seats and have an appreciation and understanding of how it is. I mean, I strongly believe that the laws like this should not just be left at the legal department of NIMASA. We should have like a QA/QC department, a department which is responsible purely for taking over these laws and seeing for its execution and passing the issue of execution down. And these are the organogram. That's why I said about the issue of the organogram does not truly reflect. But when it comes to the issue of the Cabotage Act, I am not, and I've read it back to front, I have really not found. The challenges we face is issue of penalties. We're still using old rates of 1,000 naira, $2,000 or 200 naira or whatever, whereas we have gone way above that. I think we should index link the penalties or for breach of these laws. We should index link it to the exchange rate or to current rates. I'll give you an example of issue of AIS switching off and everything else. The international convention says $5,000 per vessel per every switch off, whereas we have a situation whereby we're only paying with our own regulation, our guidelines here says 1 million naira, and that the shipping guy can switch off as much as he likes and he will just hand it 1 million naira. These are the kind of stuff we need to begin to look. Our laws are too stagnant. They are not flowing with international best practices. So I do not really have an issue with the Cabotage Act. The challenge I have is the execution and implementation. And thereby, I think that our institutions are weak and they don't have the ability because they don't have the human capacity or human training for us to push forward on that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doc. My second question will also stem from, because most of your presentation what are your recommendations with respect to some of these regulatory agencies, the weaknesses in the regulatory agencies, the weaknesses in the institution, all these opportunities that you highlighted that Nigeria are not utilizing? Please, what are your recommendations, please?
Well, my first recommendation, like I initially said, is first of all for the for NIMASA. You see, it's very interesting that before the formation, and that is why, I hate to repeat this statement. They said, if you want to hide something from a black man, you put it in a book, and I hate it. I hate that statement, but unfortunately, I'm facing it in reality in Nigeria. when NIMASA was to be created, by virtue of when we had the PICOMs and the rest of it, then they actually did go around the world to see the best, and they employed a very top consultant to travel and say, okay, what is the best system that the maritime administration needs to operate on? And there was a 12-volume report that was prepared. And as I speak to you today, it has not been implemented. What was the basis for the creation of NIMASA and the money we spent on doing that? It's not been, if they're able to go back to do that, let's go back. We've done everything. Let's go back to the NZEWI report and see, okay, how can we implement the NZEWI report to meet international best practices, tweak it here and there and see how it works. That would perfectly work. Now, for me, and this might sound a bit controversial, for the Ports Authority, I don't believe that the Ports Authority should be one organization. I believe there should be competition. There should be a Western port. There should be a port in Lagos. There should be a central port, a Delta port, and there should be an Eastern port. There needs to be competition. They wake up and they're very comfortable with LNG money. They're comfortable with Lagos port money or whatever money. Let there be competition. And I believe if there's competition, there'll be better efficiencies. And even the port managers will ensure security and safety of vessels and will also look for diverse investment. But right now, when you have everything seated in one area, I personally do not think it works. And then for the inland waterways, really and truly, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I really cannot say much about them. But in my own opinion, I don't think they should exist. I think that their functions can be shared between the Nigerian Ports Authority and NIMASA. Thank you very much. That might sound controversial, but please, I didn't say it.
Thank you, Doc. I believe that our regulatory agencies are part of our participants, and they may take some of your hints. And let's see how we get from that. And Doc, I can say that you have really aroused the interest of our participants. Questions are flying in, but we are limited to only 3 questions. So we are going to use our own discretion to select 3 questions out of the multitude of questions that are flying in here. So, Doc, first of all, I think one of the catches interest here is by Rashid Adebowale. His question is, what effort has Nigerian Port Authority made to connect hinterland as business solution?
I'm trying to understand that question. When you talk about, because, first of all, we have what we call the harbor limits. And really and truly, the harbor limits, if you look at Lagos harbor limits, goes all the way from offshore Lagos to all the way to Ekpe. But then you now come to inland waterways. Inland waterways say, no, we're in control of all of that. So, so as not to cause trouble, NPA just said, okay, our harbor limit stops at Eco Bridge, and then we'll take it to the anchorage and whatever the case may be. So therefore, and sometimes we must also realize that, everybody must know their limitations and what they want to do. Yes, I do agree that harbor limits going all the way to Ekpe might not be very feasible. But we also need to look at, okay, does NIWA have the capacity to take care of the issue on the hinterland? Now, if you look at it also, the hinterland we're talking about, if you're talking about hinterland, you're talking of all the way from Brutu, the inland waterways, to Bomadi, all the way to Patani, and to Onitsha, and all the way to Ajaokuta, and all the way up to the inland waterways ports. But then, what are they doing about it? I mean, we spent billions of naira in dredging the River Niger. What value have we gotten from that? So NPA doesn't have much say in what goes on in the hinterland because of issue of jurisdiction, because NIWA would say it is their jurisdiction. But what capacity does NIWA have to actually develop that? I mean, you look at the inland ports. The inland ports are under NIWA. You look at the one in Baro, you look at the one in Onitsha. These are under NIWA. So what does NIWA know about port management? And then you now have NPA says, oh, we have this. So there is really a cross conflict between our agencies. I really need to streamline it, because it's like water, it's everybody just going against everybody fighting for a turf. At the end of the day, the business opportunities are suffering in Nigeria.
Yes, Doc, I cannot agree less agree with you. There has been a lot of controversies with respect to jurisdiction of some of these agencies. There are a lot of, let's say, dragging of jurisdiction between NIWA, LASWA, and all that. I think now that we have the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy, some of these things need to be streamlined so that we actually have a clear understanding as to which of the agency is directly involved with respect to each of the diverse issues in the marine and blue economy or in the maritime sector. Thank you, Doc, for that intelligent response. We have another question from Gegele Olusola. Said that he's interested in low carbon emissions boats building, for inland water using hydrogen and solar. How can we reduce our sulfur content in our fuel to global standard of 10 ppm?
First thing first, the issue of we need to be careful about issue of technology when it comes to vessels, and also we need to look at efficiency, because everybody wants to look at how efficiently our vessels can run. All over the world, I mean, right now they are doing all kinds of testing of hydrogen vessels and whatever. Now, yes, everybody wants to move away from fossil fuel, which is basically diesel and LPFO as the fuel, because they believe in the high emission. Now, in order to counter this, of course, IMO puts the issue of low sulfur. Now, the beauty about Nigerian crude oil is that it's a very low sulfur crude oil. Okay, I mean, it's way below our crude sulfur contents within our crude oil is way below international standard. So really and truly, we are with. There's no need for additional whatever, because our crude oil is the sweetest and produces low. It's the ones you get from other places that are very high, have high sulfur. So that's one of it. But unfortunately, we're exporting all of our crudes. Other people are processing our crude and taking advantage of it. Whereas we should be supporting our local indigenous industries to refine these products and make them internationally acceptable. So Nigeria will be, and these are the things we're supposed to be doing to get to IMO category B or category C. We should be the point of call whereby people will come to Nigeria, and at Nigeria, because at the IMO, I mean, look at Bangladesh. Why is Bangladesh in category B? Bangladesh is in category B because they offer a service to the shipping community, which is shipwrecking. Why is Liberia in category A? Because Liberia offers something, because they have one of the best, and they have a very good ship registry system. And that's the same thing with Panama. So what can Nigeria offer the world? That's what I keep saying. And what we can offer the world is what we have on the ground, which is the low sulfur. These are the things we should be selling, that we would make available, whatever, because the issue of climate change is whatever. Now, you talk about the issue of batteries. I mean, I have researched on the issue of battery operated. I mean, really and truly, this EV thing, I really don't know how it's going to work. But what we should be looking at is vessels run on LNG or LPG. Now, Nigeria is in a very strategic position right now. And the position we're in right now is that we are in a position of a vessel replacement plan. We do not have any vessels. So moving forward, what we should be looking at is looking at technology. Where is the world going? So that any vessels that are coming to the Nigerian market, no matter what it is, should meet the international climate change requirements. So whether it is going to be a dual vessel, whether it's been operating on gas and fuel, we can start on that. And until we have sufficient gas or sufficient bunkering operation of LNG in Nigeria, then we move 100% to LNG. Then we can begin to build up the likes of electric and solar and whatever else the case may be. But right now, we are nowhere near that, and that cannot happen at the moment. That's my own personal opinion.
Thank you, Doc. I think another question that catches the eye here is by John Young. He's also asking whether you can expatiate more on the corals and low sulfur content we have.
Please, can you, I don't understand the questions. Can you just expatiate on that question?
Yes, the question is, can you expatiate more on the corals and low sulfur content we have? I think this has to do with minerals or something.
Now, I believe he's talking about the seabed, and I made an emphasis on this, and I've discussed this a lot. You see, we're a very funny country. The issue of the seabed is not a major problem. The reason why I say that is that we need to survey the seabed. Now, between you and I, the Nigerian Navy has the vessels to carry out the survey of the seabeds. They already have them. They've already purchased them. Now, what we need to do is how can we collaborate with the Nigerian Navy to carry out a total 3D survey of our seabed? That would tell us exactly what corals, what minerals. Right now, we cannot do. We're only guessing. But we do know there are some minerals in the seabed which can actually work on this. Now, on the issue of low sulfur, look, many of the modular refineries that are producing right now, they're producing low sulfur LPFOs, they are producing low sulfur AGOs, and they're focused purely on export. The only challenge we have right now is that the export, because of the restrictions now and the conflict or the encroachment NMDPR is having into the bunker operations, these guys are just exporting this bunker fuel to Lome. And so that's why Lome has become the center. Whereas what we should be doing now is to move that business back to Nigerian offshore. But the problem we have is that the Nigerian Navy, Nigerian Customs, and Nigerian Immigration, because of their zealousness, will not allow ship owners to have peace. So we need to begin to tell ourselves some home truths. These guys are not business people. They're just thinking of how to arrest the vessel and do whatever they need to do. And we need to change that narrative and begin to bring the business back to offshore Lagos. And you'll be surprised the kind of business we can generate offshore Nigeria. Nigeria is a great country, for crying out loud. And with all due respect, I'm not giving up on this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug, for that fearless, always speaking truth to power. And we hope that they are listening in. We'll continue speaking to power until something happens. So thank you, Dr. Mashayi, for the wonderful presentation and the insightful responses. We're running behind schedule. We have to go to the next speaker. Now we have to shift to the commercial shipping arena, where our next speaker has built a formidable career. We are talking about Mr. Bello Tukur, FICS, EMBA. Mr. Tukur, it's our pleasure to welcome you. Please, sir, can we have your remarks, sir?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Nzube. And thank you very much to Olisa Abakuba Legal for organizing this webinar and also inviting various captains of industry to make these contributions. Okay, I think the first two speakers have discussed a lot about the challenges that are facing the Nigerian maritime industry. I wouldn't spend a lot of my time actually discussing that. I would, however, look at the opportunities and other commercial opportunities that are actually present at the moment. Now, what is important in shipping is, and what everybody needs to understand that is involved in the maritime industry is, you need to understand how the global economy and the shipping cycle work together. Okay. We've had the Cabotage Vessel Finance Fund for a long time. There have been a lot of legal challenges, and there have been promises in terms of making investments in Nigerian shipping, which happened. But thankfully, now we have a forward-thinking minister, and also NIMASA are working together with a proper legal framework, and they've, of course, sensitized the industry what they want to do. So, which is highly commendable. However, like I said, it's important to understand how the shipping cycle and the global economy work. Shipping is also about opportunity. And I think even though this financial instrument is coming at the right time, it is also coming at a time that is a bit late. Why did I say that? If I take our tanker industry, for example, over the years, of course, due to lack of refining capacity in Nigeria, we have We've been importing a lot of oil to meet our energy demand, mostly gasoline, PMS, which sort of makes 70% of our consumption, about 70% of our consumption in the country, because we have a lot of second-hand gasoline-powered cars. We have small generating sets which we're using to power a lot of our shops, offices, homes, etc. And of course, the long-standing fuel subsidy has also been the reason why this was a major energy source for us. And that, in effect, also contributed to demand for shipping within the region. Now, in recent times, as you're experiencing some changes, and one of the changes that is happening globally, not only in terms of the types of fuel that there's going to be used, there's also changes as the type of fuel that it will be for the future. There is a lot of investment now and research in terms of the fuel for the future. We gradually move to fossil fuel, that is fuel oil and gas oil, then later to low sulfur fuel and low sulfur gas oil. And now we're moving towards hydrogen and blue ammonia. That is the fuel for the future. And according to and the shipping industry is also looking to actually reduce its own global emissions and decarbonize by 2050, which hopefully some of us will probably still be alive to witness that. So whoever is going to make any investment in a ship today has to also look at the fuel for the future. Why did I say that? Any assets you invest in is more or less a 20-year project. That's if it's a new building. So those are some of the major considerations that have to happen for us to actually make the right investment in this sector. The second thing I want to talk about is the area of maritime labor. There is no way Nigeria is going to build a blue economy without building captains. I remember the first speaker spoke about education, Mr. Damilola Emmanuel of LASWA. He made some emphasis on education, and Mr. Temisan also emphasized that. I will say this, there is a massive shortage of seafarers around the world, which means the know-how is reducing. So we have so many ships that are being built, then we don't have enough people to man. People actually having the skill to man them. There's, according to the IMO reports, about 98,000 deficiency of seafarers around the world. And we have not taken advantage of that because not only is our maritime academy ill-equipped, but our seafarers don't have the requisite training. And the reason why they don't have this requisite training is because investments have not been made. There have been a lot of talks about national shipping. How do we develop the national shipping line? How do we revive the old national shipping line? It's all well and good, but the only way you can do that is actually to make the right investment. And the right investment is first and foremost to start with manpower training, and also having a good technical and commercial relationship with ship owners around the world and technical managers who would help you to develop these seafarers. And eventually, after they finish their career at sea, some of them will come back to the shore and support some of the shore jobs, and they form part of the larger ecosystem. And these captains will eventually also be your teachers. They will also be the entrepreneurs that would actually fuel our maritime future. Thirdly, I would like to talk about the need for tax-free shipping. One of the major challenges we have in Nigeria is we are obsessed with levies and revenues, which is very, very bad for the shipping industry and the development of the shipping industry in general. Why? Ms. Omashe mentioned earlier, we still have a law or a requirement by Nigerian customs for you to pay duty on a vessel. I would like to state this clearly. Despite the fact that I think the cabotage law is okay, I am not a lawyer. I wouldn't say I'm a big fan of it. I'm a fan of it by probably 70, 80%, but 20% of it also needs to be changed. Why is that? We need to have more of a global view on shipping, because shipping is actually a global industry. Having too many protectionist laws within our maritime industry does not help. And part of that reason is because the actual cost for a Nigerian investor to own ships within Nigeria is higher than the cost of foreign investor to own a ship in the same Nigeria. So I think these are things that need, and also about commercial activities that are happening in ports, not only in Nigeria, but ports next to us. The likes of Lome, which has been, if we look at transshipment activities that happen in Lome, that has been the major hub for energy distribution across the whole of West Africa. And 50% of that cargo is actually coming to Nigeria. So why are we not capturing that market? Is because Nigerian maritime industry is very, very hostile. It's hostile in the sense that it's overly regulated. And then we have a Nigerian Navy, which should be busy with protecting the country, spending most of their time in involving themselves in matters that concern commercial shipping. And that shouldn't be so. These things actually need to be changed. A classic example is in the area of bunker operations. I can talk about this because it's very difficult for a ship to actually bunker within our ports and our harbors, because they will need to get permits from the Navy. You need to get permits from NMDPRA, which makes it quite frustrating. So hence why I need agencies like the Nigerian Ports Authority to actually take charge of this, just like they did when they took charge of dismantling the secure anchorage area. That was an idea between a private company and the Navy, which wasn't in the best interest for the whole shipping community. So ships that come into port, that's why they're called harbors. They need to take bunkers, fresh water, provisions, etc. All these things actually form part of the Nigerian maritime ecosystem. And this is all part of the blue economy that we need to develop. And if we don't make it as easy and seamless as possible, it makes it difficult to actually develop our blue economy. I would like to now go back to the what I spoke about in terms of the commercial shipping. Nigeria itself is blessed with a lot of oil, and our industrial revolution has practically become a reality with the Dangote refinery, which was launched 2 years ago. And this is an opportunity for Nigerian shipping to actually blossom. It's an opportunity for investment in shipping in Nigeria, because we have to ship this oil to other parts of the world. And currently, majority of the oil taken out of Nigeria, both crude and products, are all taken by ships from other parts of the world. And why can't Nigeria take advantage of this? The refinery is not only supposed to supply the transatlantic market or the other European market, is also meant to supply oil to other parts of the region. And I think with the Africa Intercontinental Free Trade Agreement, it's important that shipping is looked at very closely, and competitive financing is being provided, and the proper framework and access to finance to those who are looking to make investments in ships to actually participate in this trade. Other industrial activities are also happening within Nigeria. We have seen in the last few years exports of the likes of clinker for cement production from Lafarge, from Dangote as well, who is exporting clinker and feeding into some of his cement plants across the region. So there's more or less an integration that is happening, and there's an opportunity to actually to make investments in ships, develop this maritime labor to be able to carry some of this trade within the region and also to other parts of the world. Lastly, I would like to discuss about what I would probably say what I'll probably say would be the recommendations that I will probably make. Number one is to look at a way to make the shipping agencies lean, which means we have too many shipping agencies doing the same job. A classic example is the area of wreck removal. We have so many wrecks within our waterways, and all these wrecks have become a challenge for navigation within our waterways. But because of too many interagency disputes, we're not able to do that. Not only is it unsafe, it's also not good for the environment. Other areas as well, I think the regulatory agencies should look at is the area of the environment. We have a lot of plastic waste in a lot of our waterways, especially here in Lagos. Whenever you go up the lagoon, you see, or even within the port, the Papa, the whole water is littered with a lot of plastic waste. Not only is this plastic waste a major problem maritime ecosystem, it's also not good for our maritime environment. These areas that the regulatory agencies should look at in terms of making the ports clean, sustainable, and for the people of the country. So on that note, I'm happy to take questions, as I know that we're out of time, so I'll try to make it very short. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bello Tukur, for that insightful presentation from the commercial perspective. We thank you for throwing more light as to what an intended investor or investors in the maritime sector should always watch out for. Also, your insights on the issue of labor. I know that a lot of participants will be keen on that. There are a lot of low tonnage with respect to labors required or job opportunities required in this sector. Also, that also connects with maritime education, like you mentioned. Then you crown everything all with the limitations that have been bewildering the sector, ranging from regulatory issues, overlapping agencies and all that. So we thank you for that insightful presentation, and we'll be looking forward to the question and answer section. But I have some few questions for you before we go to the participants. First of all, Mr. Tuko, with your background in commercial shipping, your background in oil tanker chartering and commercial ship management across Africa and Europe, please, how will you assess the competitiveness of Nigerian maritime business today? The Nigerian maritime business environment today. How can you assess our competitiveness?
Well, I will say the Nigerian maritime environment is highly uncompetitive. If, for example, I do a statistic of the amount of seafarers who are sailing as captains that are Nigerians in the global shipping industry, our percentage is probably as low as 2%. Most of the maritime labor today is provided by India. China is also coming in. You have a lot of seafarers also from Bangladesh, etc. And that's because there's been a lot of investment in terms of maritime education and training by these countries to ensure that they provided a lot of labor. And that labor is also has a positive effect on the country because it brings a lot of foreign exchange remittance. I can tell you today, the salaries of ship captains have gone through the roof because these countries now, the young people don't want to go to sea anymore. They want to pursue a career in IT and other or AI or robotics, etc. And this presents an opportunity for Nigeria to actually provide the next generation of seafarers that are going to man ships that will be trading all over the world. So when I talk about competitiveness, it is highly uncompetitive. If we look at some countries who have made significant investments in shipping, Denmark is one example. The Danish maritime industry is one of the biggest in the world. They have big companies like Maersk, which has a massive footprint all over the world, as you can see, even here in Nigeria. So these companies over the years have made significant investments, not only in innovation, technology, in labor, in terminal management, construction, etc., offshore. So we are not begun to actually scratch the surface. There's still a lot to be done, but the opportunity is now. So we need to look at it on a global perspective on how we can improve our own maritime industry. I can tell you today, 10% of the Danish shipping business comes from the African continent. Okay, and this is a country with less than 7 million people. So that should tell you that we haven't done anything yet.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bello. I hope that intended investors take the initiative to make sure that we saturate the maritime sector, especially with the commercial shipping services. Okay, my next question is, as a successful investor in commercial shipping businesses, and also looking at the limitations that you have highlighted in this sector, please, what are your words of encouragement to intended investors and also people that are also playing in the maritime shipping, commercial shipping sector?
Okay, the trade from Nigeria to other African countries is growing, and also to Europe. So that alone is the opportunity. The opportunity is massive. Those who dare to take the risk and make the investments in Nigeria will definitely benefit from the future. Not only in terms of shipping investments, but in terms of investment in labor. There is a lot of opportunities. I can see here there's a question regarding wreck removal. Now, Nigeria is well suited geographically in the Atlantic, where we can be a major hub for ship breaking, because there's a massive steel demand in Nigeria today. And based on this steel demand, there's a demand for ship demolition. So ship recycling, I beg your pardon. Ship recycling can also contribute to the supply of steel that we have with in the country. So Nigeria is an economy and counting by 1 or 2% every single year. So the opportunity is enormous. So all we just need to do is take advantage of our geographical position where we are situated. We look at how we can capture different areas within the marine and blue economy. In the area of ship demolition, we can also be a center for ship recycling, just like India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. So this is going to employ a lot of labor. It's also going to supply good quality steel to our industrial markets, provided it's done in a sustainable and environmentally friendly way, which is the most important thing as well. So there's a massive opportunity in that, but the government also need to look at areas where it can be designated for ship demolition, probably somewhere around the Snake Island area, so that we can be able to take a lot of ships that we can demolish in this area as well. We can recycle these ships, because currently we're in at a time where the average age of the global fleet is increasing due to supply chain disruptions during COVID. But however, the fleet is currently rebalancing with new ships coming into the market. So the older ships would need to be demolished, and most of these ships will head to India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, and we will lose out on that opportunity. So that's one area we need to look at critically.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bello. So let's take 1 or 2 questions from the participants. This is from Mr. Rashid Adebowale. The question is, do we have small shipping services in Nigeria as we have in the UK, in Rotterdam?
So when he says small shipping services, is he talking about ship agencies? Yes, we have a lot of shipping agencies that offer a lot of services here in Nigeria. We have a lot of small operators of barges and boats, etc. Yes, we do have that in Nigeria. The only major challenge is our inland waterways are not very navigable. So it is still in its infancy. It has not really been fully developed. There's a huge potential to actually connect the inland waterways to the ports along the coastal areas. But then there's a huge requirement for dredging, and also a requirement for decentralization of a lot of the operations. So that would help build up that corridor, but that corridor is highly underdeveloped at the moment.
Very well. I know you have made your recommendation with respect to the question regarding the wreckage of vessels that is left in Nigerian waterways, but I still want to go into that because what he's is, what are your thoughts on the regulatory provision that will allow opportunities for private sectors to participate in providing wreck removal solutions with some form of incentives to boost investment in this line of business. So this more of opportunities given to the private sectors to participate in this wreck removal, and then also give them incentives. So what are your thoughts?
Well, most of the wrecks in the waters are actually removed by private companies, of course, under government regulations, because some of the wrecks also have some disputes that have not been resolved in the courts. So it makes it quite difficult to actually perform the operation. I would say most of the salvage companies that are actually employed by NIMASA and NPA are all private companies. As regards to incentives, well, I guess the incentives can be tied down to the amount of wreck that they actually recover, and the sell of the steel that they do, that they can be able to recover the money they've spent in salvaging a lot of these wrecks. But I also like to warn them that not all wrecks are salvable. Some have little to no value, and they just have to be taken out to make way for safe navigation. And we also have wrecks that might probably be historical. I've not seen anybody coming to do some major research or looking at old shipwrecks that have gone down in our waters or our oceans. It depends on what the government wants to do precisely, but most of the removal of the wrecks are done by private companies.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Tuko, for those valuable business and strategic perspectives, especially coming from the commercial aspects. We now hear from an academic and legal authority who bridges environmental law, marine governance, and sustainable government and sustainable development. So we're talking about no other than Professor Emmanuel Edeme-Okon. Professor Okon, we are honored to have you. Professor?
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me. And I want to express my sincere gratitude to your firm, especially the NSOC, for inviting me to be part of this very epoch-making. I've listened to the previous presenters, and I think I'm quite happy with the way discussion is going, the trend of the discussion. I also want to make it very clear that I had interfaced with your colleague and asked him if our body will be given a specific topic to look at, because blue economy is has a wide scope. And what you told me was that I should just discuss, limit my discussion to the maritime aspect of the economy. So I have not really addressed all the issues that I should address within the context of the theme of the webinar. What I have done is just to look at the major theme, which is the prospect, the opportunities, the challenges as far as the maritime industry is concerned. And what I have done, which I will send to your office, I have done a PowerPoint presentation. I quickly sent a small chat to your colleague. I had a technical issue with my laptop. I don't know, everything almost crashed, but thank God my colleague, who's been in IT, came to help me resuscitate my system. And I'm happy I think I can go on. I'm going to skip the initial, I think the elementary, if I would put it that way, aspect of my discussion, the meaning of sustainable development, the genesis and metaphor of the blue economy, because I have seen a couple of literature where people seems to get issues mixed up when it comes to sustainable development, green economy, and of course the view of Gunter Poly, with respect to blue economy. I think what I would just say on that point that why Gunter Blue has the general perspective of how to manage, the environment in a way that is sustainable and beyond the green economy. I think the issue of blue economy really stems from the position that was taken by the Iceland developing island state, during the 1992 Rio conference. And then that is where they begin the idea of how do we pay attention, because these are states that do not really have much in terms of resources when it comes to land or terrestrial aspect, and then they rely more on the sources of the ocean, and of course their coastal resources. They emphasize the issue of we shifting our focus to how to really manage our resources in the ocean and of course in the coastal sea. And of course that there is an inextricable relationship between the marine environment and of course the coastal environment. That is where the whole idea of the blue economy started. But the metaphor of the blue economy is simple. That when you look at the breeding chain of globally, you find that you have, of course, in the tropics, in the temperate region, you find different zones. But what we have that in Nigeria, where we are in tropics, wet season or rainy season, so we have everything green. And then, of course, what that is probably the genesis or the philosophy behind the issue that we should manage our resources or manage our natural resources or manage the environment in a way that will probably maintain the natural way that the environment was created. That is the genesis of green economy. Everything should be green, should be the way the nature is. I think the blue economy also has its own metaphor. When you observe the ocean, from the satellite, find out the deep ocean, the color where the water, the river does not get to that level. We find everything is most blue, and then that is where you have the metaphor of the blue economy. So I don't want to dwell on those elementary issues, and then I don't want to also dwell on the issue of sustainable development, which is the major issue, that drives blue economy. See, the green economy was based on the issue of the economy now integrates sustainable development and its elements into managing and how we exploit our resources in the ocean, and of course, bearing in mind that there's an inseparable relationship between the ocean and the coastal environment. I have also in my slide that I was sent to your office, of course, listed the various elements of blue economy. But the prospect of the Nigerian blue economy has been taken, as I was mentioned by the first presenter, the scope and depth of marine, of our coastal line. Of course, we have 200 nautical miles of EEZ, and we have 120 nautical miles of continental shelf, which is what we got extended up to on the 11th of August 2023 by the United Nations Commission on the limit of continental shelf. Of course, we have a very versatile, inland water system, which almost some nature will say 3,000, some will say 4,000. But in total, we have close to 70,000 square kilometers, of marine and coastal ecosystem, which is, a big prospect for us, to exploit the resources and, of course, to engage in the activities. It is true that they estimated that the blue economy, Nigeria blue economy, is worth almost $269 billion US. I have seen a literature where somebody says it's almost close to 1 trillion. But like I said, these are all estimates, and that the economy can capable of creating employment for more than 40 million people. So we have big prospects. There's no doubt about that. And then But the traditional activities we have in the blue economy, that we will upgrade all what I have stated. The prospect we have is just fishing, oil and gas, mining of the resources of the continental shelf of Nigeria, the coastal and maritime tourism, transportation, of course the seabed mining, which is I think we should be careful there, because the deep seabed mining is quite different from the continental shelf mining. We can mine the continental shelf resources, which we have sovereign rights. But the deep seabed mining, we have no sovereign right. We have no right. That aspect of the ocean, is governed by the principle of the common heritage of mankind. Of course, there's a massive regime on how to exploit that resources, for the common benefit of humankind. I don't think it's something we can engage in if we are able to develop our technology, able to finance, what it takes to get involved in mining of the resources of the deep seabed. But we also have emerging, sectors, today, because of evolving the nature of technology. We have marine biotech, we have seawater adaptation, blue economy. We have renewable energy. We have a lot of activities that that we can engage in, and to tap, into the wealth of the blue economy. But let me just mention that there are some countries that rely on just one aspect of some of these activities. For example, a country like Norway, Ireland, rely only on fishing. And we have almost a bigger maritime and coastal environment than some of these countries. So even one of these aspects, one of these activities can really sustain our economy or enhance the development of our economy. What we are doing now is focusing only on oil and gas. It is now that Lagos State is trying to trigger the issue of coastal transportation. Now, we have a very big prospect as far as Nigeria is concerned with the economy. And of course, in almost all the coastal, the blue economy activities, there's not even one that Nigeria will not be able to engage in. And but the question I want to ask, which is based on the scope I was limited to look at, or I was asked to look at, but what is the role of the maritime industry in the blue economy? And I have in my presentation, I have looked at the role that maritime industry plays as far as trade is concerned, tourism is fisheries, oil and gas, tourism, and then deep seabed mining. All these activities depend on shipping. That's the truth about it. So the summary of it is that the maritime sector plays a dominant role in all the activities in the blue economy. The importance of the maritime sector will significantly increase the current global shift, as far as the economy is concerned. So the maritime sector play a major role. And then what I look at is now to look at the opportunities that we have and look at, of course, the challenges. The opportunity that we have is that the sector is going to blossom now that we have the regional and bilateral economic bloc being strengthened, and especially with the new African continental free trade. That will invariably lead to a surge in the maritime traffic. Of course, we also have natural resources, rich natural resources in the continental shelf and even in our territorial and exclusive tourism. We have one of the best species of fish as far as the Sub-Saharan Africa is concerned. The crocus is one of the best, and that is one of the best as far as income earning is concerned. And the streams we have in Nigeria. That is why you had the US and EU focused on how we are exploiting our streams. It's one of the best qualities of streams that we have globally. We are rich. The opportunities are there. And now that we have heavy traffic, high cost of airfare, the best way to move now would be to move through the inland waterways, which is still part of our big economy. Of course, we don't talk of the issue of energy generation that we have, to reduce our relying on our oil and archaic energy transmission. Of course, the development of the new seaport that has been proposed by government to further support the Lekki seaport will also boost the economy in Nigeria. So we have a lot. The opportunities are there. We have everything that will really encourage or enhance, our economy to be the catalyst that will help the federal government to diversify from oil and gas. That is the summary of it. We also have challenges. First one that is, of course, is non-global is the issue of maritime security. We have issue of, like the last speaker mentioned, dominant of the industry by foreign-owned vessels. Of course, I have also mentioned, listed there, the poor management of the funds under the control and the management of the NEMASA. We have poor infrastructures and equipment. That's what makes the vessel time quite long. Of course, I have also noted the Merchant Shipping Act and almost all the regulations that we have that have been made under the act. The issue of safety of fishing vessels or labor in the fishing sector is completely, ignored, it's not addressed. And that is because up to today, it's not really a Nigerian problem per se on one leg of it, because up till now we do not have an acceptable international regime as far as the issue of regulating safety of fishing vessels is concerned. But when it comes to the issue of labor in the fishing sector, we have already a binding international convention on the standard of training and certification and workkeeping of fish vessels personnel, which is enforced. But Nigeria has not signed that instrument. Not to talk of the latest Cape Town Agreement of 2012 on the implementation of the provision on the issue of safety of fishing vessels. Well, we also have a situation where I have looked at the Shipping Merchant Shipping Act and look at the regulations that have been made. One thing I have come to discover, which I think has been addressed, and I'm happy it was addressed by the last speaker, by the last presenter, that he has, shifted the focus on this issue of, revenue-driven, and has also mentioned a couple of important issues that have to do with the issue of sustainability of our resources and how we manage the marine environment. So more or less, after looking at all the challenges and opportunities, what I have done is now to ask the question: how does the rules or the law that we have in this area, address, would enhance the opportunity or address the challenges? But I have also looked at the constitution, which is just basically the ground norm, the issue of item 36, which is within the exclusive list of the federal government, exclusive list that have met maritime issues within the purview of the federal government. Of course, the civil and criminal jurisdiction of the Federal High Court under Section 251, and of course the issue of Section 254 sub C sub 2 that has now given the National Industrial Court, labor-related jurisdiction as far as the maritime aspect is concerned. But the primary regulation I have looked at all the primary regulation in this area. One, the NEMASA Act, to the Cabotage Act. 3, I have looked at the Merchant Shipping Act. Then I have also looked at, the more related act, that will enhance, either the opportunities or address the challenge that we are having. And now, if you look at the Maritime Safety, Maritime Mission and Safety Agency Act, 2007, the NEMASA Act, the major objective of that act is that the NEMASA will promote the development of international commercial shipping, in international and coastal shipping trade. And of course, it will regulate, maritime safety, security, and also protect, the maritime environment against pollution. What most you find the focus of government, of course, most literature will be on the issue of how do we the commercial aspect, the economic aspect, and then of course they neglect the environmental perspective, which is the crux of the blue economy. We are shifting to the ocean. Also bearing in mind that there is an unstable relationship between the ocean and the coastal environment. We also have in mind that while we are engaging in all the activities that will be able to shift or diversify our economy, from oil and gas, we must not fail to address the issue of, ensuring the sustainability of the environment and, of course, the marine and the coastal ecosystem. That has been the problem. And if you look at that act, it has specific provisions on environment. Section 44 and 45, are very specific on the role of NAMASA as far as the issue of environment is concerned. In fact, at that point, the issue of REC is concerned, the issue of, seashore-generated waste is also concerned. Of course, there is a fund established by that act, which NAMASA is mandated to use to achieve its objective. And that objective would also include protecting the marine environment against pollution. That is in summary. I've also looked at the Cabotage Act, which has been mentioned by the earlier speaker. That act relies on four templates: ownership of vessels, manning of vessels, operation of vessels, bidding of vessels. The whole thing, the whole idea, the philosophy of underpinning that act is to ensure that Nigeria takes absolute control, of the maritime industry, especially the shipping perspective of the industry. But unfortunately, of course, which is normally what should be done, is that you have exceptions, you have waivers. But what I seem to observe is that government has been focusing on the exemptions and waivers instead of enhancing or finding a way to ensure that the major four templates, that act is built on, is achieved. So you find waivers, which has led to foreign owned vessels still dominating the industry. But the good thing about that act is that act established the Cabotage Vessels Financing Fund. As I speak, I'm not too sure, but as I speak up to today, the fund, the major reason why that fund was established was to help, establish indigenous ownership of that industry. But up to today, the fund has not been disbursed. The former president triggered the process, and up till now, I heard some people say that the minister is going to give directive. But I wonder how the minister will give that, because the law is very clear. If you look at the Cabotage Act, that the minister will recommend, and then the National Assembly will have to approve. So he still had to go to the National Assembly. So up till now, I have not heard that anything has gone to the National Assembly, that address on how that fund is going to be utilized. So it's the process. We have funds, somewhere in the commercial banks, and the commercial banks are using the funds to try to make money. And of course, don't forget that the exchange rate is going, the money is losing value. So even if you want to utilize the fund today, it may not be able to really achieve much in terms of how we can utilize, the shipping industry in Nigeria. Of course, the Cabotage Act also has environmental provisions, which require that foreign vessels and even Nigerian vessels must meet, the safety and protection requirement imposed by Nigerian law and the international conventions that are in force. So the same thing goes with Merchant Shipping Act, which I've also looked at. If you look at Merchant Fishing Act, it utilized four, in fact, let me say five, instruments. I call them evidence-based mechanism to ensure compliance. One is vessel registration, two is survey of vessels, three is licensing, four is certification, and five is official logbook. This runs through almost all the issues, all the themes that you have, in the majority of all the things that you have in the Merchant Shipping Act. So it's quite a good law, and also the law also has provisions on prevention of pollution in the marine environment.
Yeah. Professor, please, you have 2 minutes to round up.
Yeah. Okay. So if you look at part 13, this or that, like I said, almost all the lot I've looked at, seems to balance the issue of revenue and the issue of environmental protection. But the practice is that government and even the stakeholders in the industry are really focusing on the issue of revenue driven perspective and completely ignoring. That is why you will find the issue of wreck everywhere in a coastal or in a marine environment. Like I said, I have also looked at the issue of suppression of piracy, which is of piracy and other maritime offenses, which has come to address the issue of piracy and other maritime offenses. And that act also established a fund. Almost all the acts have looked at establishing a fund. Even the latest terrorism, which has also addressed some aspect of maritime safety by prohibiting act of terrorism, also established a fund. My only concern with that act that it defines victims and exclude environment. And I think that is the problem that that's how the law have to look at, because if we really want to look at the present state of law, what is happening in other jurisdictions, environment has gotten down a person. And then, of course, we will need to, the Supreme Court will need to finish its unfinished business in the case of Center for Oil Pollution and NNPC. What I have done is that I will also advise that we will look at it. Almost all the regulations that we have, about 18 or 12 of them, that are specific on the issue of environment. None of those regulations has used the word sustainable development or sustainability. None of those regulations has addressed serious issues like climate change, how we can lower, greenhouse emission in the industry, in the maritime industry. So these are a very serious problem, that we have in as far as maritime industry is concerned. And just to make sure I don't exceed my time, I have made a couple of recommendations. Number one, that we should effectively, properly manage and disburse the fund. That we have the minister has 3 funds that is controlling. And what is he doing with the funds? Why can we up to now we not be able to establish a national line or shipping line? Or why can we not really, invest money to help, the indigenous entrepreneurs to start, their own shipping line? I have also recommended that Nigeria should, rectify the Cape Town Agreement and the 1995 Convention on the Training of Seafarers. Of course, the issue of the national policy, which was adopted on the 6th of May, we have to effectively implement it. Let it not be that like all national policies that will just come up and then thereafter it will die a moribund death. And of course, that we have to find a way to amend, the Merchant Shipping Act and integrate, into that act and all the relevant environmental law core issues, emerging issues, and principles that regulate, environment now, which are all, tied to sustainable development. Of course, I have also recommended that there should be proper effective implementation and enforcement of all the laws as far as maritime industry is concerned. The issue of establishing dialogue will also assist, for us to curb the problem of, capital flight, where we have almost 300 billion naira every year being used, to service or, repair vessels outside the country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our erudite professor, for the enlightening presentation on law and sustainability. Please, coming from an academician, you gave us the genesis of the blue economy, talked about the sustainable development, the green economy, and then you gave us a background of our coastline and our inland waterways before you now go directly into the opportunities or emerging areas in the marine and blue economy. Talked about tourism, fishing, oil and gas, seabed, mining and shipping and all that. And then you also go into the opportunities that are available, stating that Nigeria is rich in natural resources and all that, talking about the transportation, like the Lagos State has implemented their coastal transportation and all that. So, and then finally you went to the challenges, most especially the regulatory challenges, the laws, not fully implemented and all that. So we thank you, Professor, for that extensive one. So we go straight to the question and answer section. And I have 1 or 2 questions for you, Professor, before we take the participants. My first question is, Prof, how can Nigeria better integrate environmental protection with economic development under the Blue Economy agenda, especially in sectors like offshore oil and marine fisheries?
Let me. I think I'll take it from two angles. The offshore. Now, if you look at our law, the present law, the regulations have taken care of that. Issue of having West, facilities, offshore. Of course, the issue of even the sea protection fees. The law has taken care of that very, very well. The problem we are having, that either in the Merchant Shipping Act or in fact, on the regulation, there are copies of provisions that have addressed that problem. So the problem we are having as far as that issue is concerned is lack of implementation and enforcement, environmental enforcement. That's the truth. As I speak to you now, I doubt if most of us attending this webinar have a grasp of or have an idea of all the regulations. We have about 13 of them. If you look at those 13 regulations, it has covered almost everything, up to reg, waste from ship and everything, up to offshore installation and platforms. That is well taken care of. The law is there, but the problem we are having is the issue of lack of enforcement. That's on that aspect. When it comes to the issue of fisheries, and like I said, which is my real area, and I was thinking your colleague will ask me to speak on that area, but he said just generally. The truth is that we have an absolute law as far as the fisheries, marine fisheries, and even inland fisheries is concerned. If that law was first enacted by the military government in 1971 or 72, and it was reenacted in 1992 just to include the development in the maritime zone into it, so we can claim an EEZ. The measures that you have in that law, the conservation and management measures you have in that law, they are very absolute. Nigeria is the only country, one of the countries, not the only, when we have another country, let me not be too critical on saying that, but I think I can say that Nigeria up to today, is one of the countries that still allowed fishing to be done every day of the year. No close season. Any day the vessels are free to go out. You have spawning period that should be close season for species to innovate and then the biomass to increase. But that is not done. The cash allocation is not done. You go and fish whatever you want to fish and how you can fish. Who is there in the ocean, to monitor? Do you have the equipment to monitor? Even the vessel monitoring system that has been introduced, do we have the facilities? Do we have the energy to really monitor? Because you cannot, if you go to, I don't know what happened in Abuja, but if you go to Lagos office here, fine. Most of the time they are in darkness. And if you have a status station there and you don't have gas to run it, how do you monitor the vessels? The conservation measures are not what you find in today's contemporary fisheries law. The enforcement and the monitoring measures are also very, very low. So more the issue still lie on the issue, are we managing that area sustainably? No, that's the question. So if you don't mind the area sustainable, how can you be able now to say, oh, you can really get most out of that sector, that area, under the blue economy? Like I said earlier, some countries rely only on fisheries. Ireland, Norway, that is their main, like we rely, all is our mainstay. Fisheries is our mainstay. And we have it in our ocean. And then we don't know, do you even know who comes in to fish? We don't exceed 5 to 20 nautical miles fishing. Beyond 50, I don't think we have any vessel that goes, and fishing vessel that goes beyond 50 nautical miles. But you have foreign vessels coming in to come and fish. So it's a problem. That area needs to be looked at totally. The law has to be, you have to come up with a new law, a comprehensive law, that address the problem of that area holistically. That's my person. So it's different from the offshore. Offshore has a better regulation. It may not be perfect, but it has something to work on, unlike the fisheries. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof. There's another big question here. And just like I mentioned earlier, you have highlighted a lot of emerging areas and opportunities in the marine and blue economy. So this question is from Sokei Ezeaku. Yeah, he's asking, how can one tap into these opportunities? The opportunities you highlighted in the marine and blue economy, sir.
What You can't as a private citizen or as a private investor, you can't go into any business, any investment if you don't have the money, you don't have the finance. That's number one. First of all, you need to understand the system. I mean you have you have issue of proposal writing, study the feasibility study of the area before you want to go into it. But the crux of the matter is money, finance, and technology. That's the issue. That is why you have all those funds. You have three funds. We have the Maritime Fund under the Merchant Shipping under the NIMASA Act. We have the Cabotage Fund. You know, we also have the fund. This other, we have about 4 funds or so, and then all these funds are apart from the fund under the Terrorism Act, which I said does not define victim to exclude the environment, because the level that we are, as far as that jurisprudence in that area is concerned. But the other 3 funds are funds that government should use, you know, to create an enabling environment. And then, of course, find genuine investors and allow them to come in. And of course, if you're also a businessman, then you have to also find your funds privately through loans from the bank or whatever way you can get your funds. You can't go into this investment without having the money, you know, having the technology. I mean, you need the facilities. You need the facilities to go into this business. It's like any other business that you want to go into.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pros. Somebody is asking about the names of these laws that makes provision for these funds. But I know you have mentioned the Cabotage Act, which provides for the CVFF fund. I think you also mentioned the terrorism, an act that has to provide funds on the terrorism aspect and the one on the piracy. So which one is the 4th one so that we can move on from there, sir?
What you said, please, I didn't get you, sir.
Yes, please. Somebody asking about, you mentioned there are about 4 funds being established or provided for by some of these acts or some of these laws. So the person wants to know which are these laws and what kind of funds do they make provisions for?
You have the Maritime Fund, which is established under the NIMASA Act in Section 17. Section 17, yes.
Yes.
That is for the matter to use that fund to achieve the purpose of the NIMASA Act. And the NIMASA Act, the 3 major purposes are there listed. 1 is to develop the insurance shipping. 2, maritime safety and security. 3, environment. That is the major 3. Of course, you have other functions there, you know, and so that's number 1 fund. And I have also mentioned the Cabotage Vessel Financing Fund, you know, which I said is also meant to address the issue of, apart from the issue of combating crime, it's also meant to assist, you know, the NIMASA, you know, in ensuring development of the maritime industry. I think the other fund I mentioned, the Piracy Fund. I have a fund, I have the Piracy Maritime Offences Fund, Section 19, sub 1 or 2, and establish that fund. Then, of course, you have the fund established under the Terrorism Act. So there are 4 funds, but like I said, the last one, you know, define victim, you know, as individual, citizen, and community, and then it does not include environment. Of course, if you go by our jurisprudence and the judgment of the Supreme Court in the Center for Pollution Watch case, of course, you find that where we are now is simple that the environment, you know, you can enforce the environment, you know, look at it as also part of the human right, you know, and of course, but like I said, it's an unfinished business because what the Supreme Court said, because which I think have not been really addressed, that the Supreme Court did not open the window for everybody, for everyone to have local standard in that matter. So the government still enforce, apart from the NGO. It's the only NGO that can now have the locus. It does not. I cannot go to enforce. You cannot go to enforce, except you are working under the platform of NGO. So we are still limited as far as jurisprudence is concerned. But in other other jurisdiction, the environment now has a status of almost a person and can sue and be sued, though through a trustee. You understand what I'm saying? So we are still far. So that is why I said we need to, at the present level, if the law itself, if that Terrorism Act now has recognized, the danger of terrorism in the maritime sector, what it can cause. If we remember what happened in the Gulf War, in the Persian Gulf, what terrorism can cause in the maritime environment or the coastal environment, then why has that law now defined victim to exclude the environment? So we need to develop our law, and that's why I say probably we'll still have to find a way to go back to the Supreme Court to finish that business started in the Center Population Watch case.
Thank you, Professor. So to conclude this round of experts presentation, we turn to a speaker whose work lies at this intersection of science, sustainability, and aquaculture innovation. We are referring to Dr. Emmanuel Olumuyiwa Ojei. Dr. Ojei, we are honored to have you with us today. Please go ahead with your remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Izebe Akume. And I also want to thank Mr. Dr. Olisa Bakuba Legal for organizing this. Full so I'll be talking basically. Am I audible enough?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Oh, okay, fine.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. So I'll be talking basically from the perspective of a researcher, at the same time like a scientist. So from me, this topic is an blue economy, prospects, opportunities, National Biotechnology Research and Development Agency. By the way of introduction, Nigeria BT, 850 kilometers of coastline and extensive waterways, and the blue economy encompasses of all activities related to oceans, seas, lakes, and so the sector holds vast untapped potential for national development. But let's quickly go to what a blue economy is all about. The blue economy refers to sustainable use of ocean and aquatic resources for economic growth, improved livelihood, and then for jobs while preserving the edge of the ocean. We get to sustainable development for Nigeria, offering innovative solutions to harness aquatic resource responsibly. So next slide. So now let's quickly look at the Nigerian blue economy assets. One, we look at the coastline. Over 850 kilometers along the Ocean routes, Olenja, Benue Lake Shad, and numerous.
Doc, are you still here?
Okay, sorry, that's internet connectivity. Am I? Yes. I think it was internet connectivity issue. Am I audible?
Yes.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Then part of the asset is the communities. We have numerous coastal and riverine MPs with traditional knowledge of aquatic resources and management. Then we quickly look at the economic potential. One, the blue economy offered a food security. By reducing land food and then the maritime services. But for the purpose of this presentation, I will not dwell much on the maritime and all that. But I will focus on aquaculture, the blue economy, as far as the efforts of the government is concerned, which is national biotechnology. They will look at revenue generation, exporting seafood, marine derived products, attracting tourism. We look at economic diversification, lessening dependence on oil by developing alternative sectors. Then we look at the key opportunities. One, we look at aquaculture. So before I proceed on this, I think let me quickly explain what aquaculture and then fisheries is all about. Fisheries has to do with the audible.
Doc, can you
Am I audible?
increase your volume? You are not so audible, so we need you to increase your volume.
Okay, what about now? Am I audible enough?
Yes, please.
Okay, fine. So I'm saying under the key opportunities, let me quickly explain what aquaculture and the fisheries is all about. When we look at fisheries, that has to do with the capture or harvesting of fish and other aquatic animals from a natural water bodies, like oceans, rivers, and then wetlands and lakes. While aquaculture is almost similar, but in this case, the entire life stages of this animal is under your control. Now, in fisheries, it's just like going to the river or maybe to the ocean. Nobody has control. You can't just say, this belongs to my father, let me just go and... So in that, nobody has control over the fisheries. You can just go there and do anything. Yeah, but aquaculture, everything, all the life stages of the organism. When I say organism in this context, I'm talking about plants or animals in this context. So it's under your control. So the key features of this we have based on wide population, that's fisheries. It includes artisanal and industrial fishing. And then we talk about one of the disadvantages is overfishing, because if it's not properly managed, it doesn't belong to anybody. Anybody can just go anywhere, harvest without regulation, without anything. So, but in the case of aquaculture key features like agriculture of water species, involve breeding, involve feeding, management, and all that. So the only difference is that aquaculture is under control, while fisheries is not totally under your control. So now let's go to the key challenges when it comes to fisheries. One, depletion of fish stock due to unregulated activities. I think Prof talked about that. The last presenter talked about that. We have the inadequate network.
No, please increase the volume.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So depletion of fish stocks, that's key challenges due to unregulated fishing activities. We have inadequate port facilities and transportation networks. We have pollution resulting in oil spills, plastic waste, and industrial discharge, enhancing aquatic ecosystem. And then we don't have, just like what Prof said the other time, that lack of data efficiency, lack of comprehensive data for informed decision making, and insufficient funding for research in marine science, and then biotechnology. Now, what's the role of national biotechnology in blue economy? Now we have aquaculture biotechnology. What is biotechnology, and how can we incorporate biotechnology into blue economy? So we say biotechnology is the use of biological tools and techniques like genetics, microbial research, enzymes technology, and bioengineering to improve the aquatic food system, like aquaculture, discover marine products like drugs, clean polluted marine environment, and add value to aquatic resources without overexploitation. So what we do here basically is, and the key areas of biotechnology, we have the aquaculture biotechnology, which has to do with improved fish breeding. And I'll give an example. Right now in my office at National Biotech, we're able to develop a form of selective breeding program for African catfish, whereby we determine the size, we determine the kind of strain, we determine the in terms of the body weight and everything. So we do that genetically, okay, by selecting the best growing strain, okay, and then mass produce to do what is called a genetically modified tilapia, okay, whereby we're able to, for example, what we're able to do is, for example, we have Orochromis niloticus, and then we have maybe like Saroterodon galileus. Maybe in Orochromis, they are very fast in terms of growth, okay, but they don't, they have a lot of bones, okay. And the other species is they don't really have much, they don't have fast growth rate, but they have flesh. So what we do is, okay, now this one has a very fast growth rate, but it has a lot of bones. What can we do to improve this so that it, so what we do there is to take the trait or the gene that is responsible for the fast growth rate in Orochromis and maybe put in Saroterodon galileus so that it can grow bigger and better off than when it's just a normal breed without genetic engineering or transgenic gene involved in this case. And then also what we do also in the area of aquaculture is we improve the size. When I say size now, I'm talking about the body weight of the fish. And then another thing we do is in line with animal rights, okay? Because ordinarily catfish don't breed in captivity because these are the two most important species we raise that is very popular in Nigeria. So ordinarily catfish don't breed in captivity. So what we do is once we get the breeds from the wild, so we do what is called insemination. Okay, so what we do is we inject the fish, okay, and then that of the female we also we inject the female, and then the male we macerate, we kill. So while killing the male, you can't be sacrificing fish to get fish. So that's totally wrong. So right now at the agency, we look at the exact location where the sperm sac is located. So we macerate the fish, the male fish, we remove the gonads. Okay? Since we already know the location where the sperm sac is, we remove the gonad and then we suture. So it's like somebody is doing CS in quotes in this context now for women, you know, during childbirth. So the same thing, we know the exact location where the stuff is, we macerate, we remove, and then we suture, and then the fish survives. So in that case, we are not killing fish to get fish anymore. And the reason why we are doing that is because we don't need to be killing fish in order to get fish anymore. So these are the technologies, and these are the things we are bringing on board when it comes to aquaculture back in my office. Then we're able to develop better feeds using enzymes and probiotics, reduce antibiotics by producing natural disease control, and then we have enhanced water quality in fish farms. Then under the marine biotechnology, we use, there's something called drug deliveries from marine organisms. And I give example. We have some fishing companies in and around Lagos that they're into both capture fisheries and culture fisheries. So most of the time when they go to the jetty, after maybe going to different countries to bring in some of these aquatic animals. So they bring them to the company and then they start, for example, I give example of shrimps. So shrimps, I think Nigeria do export shrimps to European countries like Belgium and the likes. So what they do is once you remove the shrimps, the meat, I mean the shrimps itself, and then the carapace, that's the shell, okay? They just, after removing the meat, the carapace, they just dislodge the carapace into the lagoon, and then the meat goes straight for exportation based on sizes. So, but now the carapace is very important when it comes to medicals, especially pharmaceuticals. So the carapace can be harnessed by converting the shell, for scientific terms, I call it carapace, by converting the shell into what is called chitin and chitosans. And these are very major materials needed, in pharmaceutical industries, okay, to produce creams, to produce all these bleaching creams and lots more. And even in the area of pharmaceutical, by producing drugs and all that. So you can see through that we can have what is called a waste to wet approach, whereby we don't consider the carapace as anything, but it's very useful when it comes to pharmaceutical industry. So when we look at the environmental biotechnology, in which it's also a department within my office, we look at it in the area of bioremediation, using marine bacteria or fungi to clean up oil spills and plastic pollution. We equally look at water treatment in coastal areas or aquaculture farm, and then we look at the mangrove ecosystem protection. Then we look at the blue circular economy, turning fish waste into fertilizer or byproduct. Of course, these are part of the things we do. Currently, we had a proposal, and then we are trying to look at, because seaweed is what is in vogue now. If you go to Kenya, they have gone far when it comes to blue economy. Go to Mauritius, far above. So we are trying to look at seaweed as both food and packaging, and then developing sustainable aquaculture. I think I've talked about that. Then Nigeria has vast marine biodiversity and inland waters, but limited scientific use of them. Then biotechnology can help us add value without over-harvesting, moving from one just catching to creating and managing resources. Can you please go to the next slide? Okay, then we talk about capacity building. We have training program for fish farmers and researchers, workshops on sustainable aquaculture practices, and then we have policy to support partnership, adding government, advising government on biotechnology policy, collaborating with international research institutions. Can you please move to the next slide? Okay, I think I've talked about this specific NAFDA role. Next slide. Okay, then we look at strategic action platform for advancement. One, of course, I think it's good to develop a comprehensive strategy aligning with global best practices. And then we'll look at how to upgrade our ports. We'll look at how to upgrade our ports, research and facilities, and transportation network. We look at how to implement and enforce laws to protect marine resources. And then part of what I think can be done under the strategic action for advancement is to increase funding for marine science and then biotechnology research, and then possibly to integrate blue economy initiative to environmental efforts I think, and then collaborations opportunity. We have potential partnership with academic institutions, private sectors, government agencies, and then coastal community, because for us at National Biotech, we have various bioresources centers. For example, we have a center in OD in Bayelsa State. Anything that has to do with fish, aquatic, and coastal stuff is being managed by our OD center in Bayelsa. We have in Ogun State, in Ode, we have in virtually all the states of Nigeria based on a particular bioresource that is being known for in that locality. Based on a particular bioresource being identified in that particular locality, that's where we put the center so that we can harness the bioresources or a particular bioresource in that locality, to a maximum sustainable yield. I don't know how I'm supposed to present this, but I think I will come back to that when I'm giving a takeaway message. So I think I would like to stop here. I'm ready to entertain any question from us. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Doc. Thank you for that educating and insightful presentation on aquaculture, biotechnology, and marine biotechnology. In fact, apart from all that you have also presented, and like other speakers have also stated in the course of this discussion, what stands out for me is your area of specialty, which is the aquaculture, biotechnology, and the way you people transform fishes into different species, for sustainable developments and all that. And the marine biotechnology as well, which aids the pharmaceutical industries and other industries like that. Looking at so many organisms and environments in the marine to be able to get all those. So we thank you, Doc, for that insightful one. In fact, another catchy area from your presentation is the potential partnerships with NBLDA. Yes, with your agency. Yes.
Yes.
That will be an area of interest to our participants, so that the agency is open to partner with academic institutions, to partner with private sectors, government agencies, and coastal communities. I know that some questions will come from this area, but before we get to that, let me ask my own question. Doc, given your extensive, just like you have presented, your extensive research work in sustainable aquaculture and selective breeding, what role do you see aquaculture playing in diversifying Nigeria's marine economy beyond the oil and gas? This thing that we have.
Can you please come again?
Yes, my question is on how can aquaculture, like the aquaculture biotech and the marine biotech, be a sustainable area in the marine and blue economy beyond oil? I know Nigeria is now more focused on oil and gas, but looking at these areas that you mentioned, how can we rely solely on this area, or tap the potentials of this area, which I see as an emerging area in the marine and blue economy? Thank you.
Okay, if I get you correctly, how to diversify. Okay, like I said, for me, aquaculture is a key pillar of blue economy. Okay, but focusing on just one or two species like catfish and tilapia limit the impact. But the key role for me on how to go about diversification is one, it reduces pressure on wide. That's key roles of aquaculture diversification in blue economy. One, by engaging or by going into aquaculture fully, it reduces the pressure on the wildlife stock. By farming more than species like shrimps, seaweed, we reduce overfishing in rivers, lakes, and the oceans. And this supports fish biodiversity, okay, and natural population recovery. And then we look at increase in food security. Different species meet different nutritional needs. For example, we have the omega-3 from marine fish, micronutrient from shellfish or seaweed. And then we have more species, more year-round availability. For example, if you're into aquaculture, okay, you don't need to wait for closed season, open season in this year and all that. So if you engage in pure aquaculture, that means you have the platform to produce all year round. Okay, I have a farm back home whereby at every point in time, you have your fingernails. Okay, you have your hybrids. So I don't need to wait for maybe, let me wait for the close season, open season before I start. No. That's one good advantage of aquaculture diversification. And it boosts farmers' income. Diversified system, e.g. like fish plus snails or tilapia plus duckweed. Of course, also part of what we're looking at, which help farmers to spread high-value species like brown oysters, ornamental fish. Of course, I forgot to mention this. Ornamental fish is also very important, okay, which can earn more per hectare than catfish alone. Then creates new industry. For example, seaweed farming support cosmetics, fertilizers, and then biopackaging. So I think, and it promotes climate resilience, okay, by integrating systems like rice, fish farming, circulatory tanks or aquaponics, use water or more efficient and some use integrated systems like rice fish farming, recirculating tanks or aquaponics. Aquaponics is trying to create or to when we look at what's it called, aquaponics, you are raising soil or plant in a soilless environment. Okay, so we have a balance whereby you can raise fish at the same time be raising plants. Okay, so what we need is just like you are trying to, as you are raising your fish, the discharge and then the waste from the fish is being utilized by the plant based on the nutrient requirement, of the plant, and vice versa. So these are the areas that aquaculture can support blue economy.
Yes, thank you, Doc. I have a question from Mr. Bayo Salami. His question is, what efforts are your organization doing in employing young graduates who studied aquaculture and fishery without engagement as national sustainable measure in marine and blue economy?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. I can say this categorically that unfortunately, as far as national biotechnology is concerned, especially aquaculture division, we we have a very little or low staff strength because anything government, if you don't carry the certificate of aquaculture and fisheries, they might not place you in a proper or they might say you can't fit into the system, even though you have an idea, you have the requisite knowledge and light. So if you don't have the certificate or certification to be there, it will be difficult. But if you are a graduate and then you have passion for this, I think we can discuss. I think after the program.
Okay, thank you so much, Doc. We really appreciate your insightful presentation, especially from your area of expertise with respect to aquaculture and biotechnology. Thank you, Doc. So we go to the final rounds of our experts' presentation. Now, at this stage, all the panelists will give their final thoughts. Just a minute, not more than a minute. Just give your final thought, your final recommendation in respect to the discussion we just had. So we'll go back to our first speaker. I don't know if he's still on the call, Mr. Oluwadamilola Emmanuel, the DG of LASWA. Sir, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still with you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Your final thoughts, sir.
Well, I want to thank everyone, for giving quite insightful presentations, and it there shows that there's a lot of knowledge. And I would just want to say that we just need to ensure that we're collaborating appropriately to ensure that the marine and blue economy, comes to stay, and we also see the sustainable prosperity of the marine and blue economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. We call on our second speaker, Dr. Temisa Domaseyi, the former DJ of the NIMASA. Sir, your final thoughts, please, sir.
First of all, I'd just like to say a big thank you to, of course, the OAL for putting this together. Today has been an ability for us to dig deep and have not only commercial but technical understanding of the industry we are in. As much as possible, we must continue to keep talking. We cannot give up on the system. The opportunities are quite vast as it relates to the industry, and therefore we just need to just keep pushing. One day it will definitely come. It will work. I mean, we have enough papers written, and we just need for us to begin to execute. I mean, there's some brilliant ideas which are hanging in the system, and I still believe that the opportunities are still there and still vast. And then hopefully, as time goes on, we should be able to take some opportunities and make Nigeria great again.
Thank you, Doc. We appreciate your coming to be with us. So we call on our third speaker, Mr. Bello Tuko. Please, sir, your final thoughts. Mr. Bello, are you still with us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay,
I can hear you now. Okay. My final thoughts are these. The opportunity is enormous. Nigeria stands in a good position to make a huge contribution to the world maritime industry, especially in terms of provision of maritime labor. And I think this is the time to have a proper national approach in seafarer development, to be able to contribute our own quota to the global maritime industry. And with that, there's a huge prospect to actually develop our blue economy to greater heights. So thank you very much, Mr. Nzube, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bello. I appreciate you as well. Prof, please, your final. Professor Kohn, please, your final thoughts, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
First of all, I want to say thank you so much for making me to be part of this epoch-making discussion. I think I also want to say thank you to your firm also, and to the Learned Silk, who have been championing the cause of this area. Thank you so much. My summary of what I will say is that nothing will happen in the blue economy without shipping it involved. You can't fish. Even if you can't fish, anything you want to explore, you have to still use the vessels, take it back to life or to process them. So the role of shipping or the maritime sector is crucial as far as the economy is concerned. But one thing I want us to understand that all the stakeholders, the technical government, should be very careful that we don't emphasize the issue of revenue driven, at the expense of sustainable development of the resources for the ecosystem. The two has to go hand in hand. While we get the revenue, we have to ensure that the ecosystem is preserved for this generation and for the future generation. And then, of course, like I said earlier, our laws are very good. They have environmental provisions, but they do not reflect the contemporary issues as far as the environment is concerned. That is sustainable development, which drives the economy and more serious issues like climate change and the rest. I think if we look into these issues, I'm very, very sure that in the next couple of years, the sinking glories songs as far as the economy is concerned in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. We appreciate your being with us today. And lastly, we call on Dr. Emmanuel Oje. Your final thoughts, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Nzibe Akume. And I want to sincerely appreciate the Olisa Agbakoba Legal for organizing this wonderful seminar. My takeaway is I'll just say this in the form of proverb, that the ocean does not reward those who are too anxious, too greedy, or too impatient. Okay, so let's guide our approach to Nigerian blue economy. We must invest, not extract recklessly. Cooperate, not compete destructively. Plan and not rush. A healthy ocean means a healthy economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc. We really appreciate you. So, my dear esteemed panelists, I myself, Akunne Nzube Jompo, on behalf of Olisa Agbakoba Legal, I would also like to extend our heartfelt appreciation to each and every one of you for your invaluable contributions to this discussion. Your insights, expertise, and thoughtful discussions were very instrumental and in making this section both engaging and impactful. We thank you and we appreciate you, and we hope to see you again because we intend to have these webinars more often on several issues in the marine and blue economy. Thank you, and we look forward to more insightful engagements in the future. I'll hand over to my colleague who will give us the closing remarks, Mrs. Ifeoma Ezenwa. She is the head dispute resolution practice group of Olisa Agbakoba Legal and also a member of the maritime practice group. Ms. Ifeoma, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Nzube Akunne, for having me. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here with us as we come to the end of today's enlightening webinar on the marine and economy. We want to sincerely thank each one of you for being part of this impactful conversation. The blue economy represents a powerful opportunity for Nigeria, not just in terms of economic growth, but in creating sustainable livelihood, protecting our marine environment, and unlocking the full potentials of our coastal and ocean resources. In this discussion, we have shown that with the right partnership, innovation, and policy direction, Nigeria can lead the way in harnessing the power of the ocean for the inclusive and sustainable development. Just as our last speaker said, the ocean does not reward those who are greedy. Yes, indeed, the ocean does not reward those who are greedy. Let's take the knowledge we have shared today and turn it into action within our communities, our institutions, and our nations at large. To all our participants, I want to thank you very much. And our distinguished speakers, we thank you for this insightful discussion. Let's stay connected and let's keep working together to build a stronger, greener, and more prosperous Nigeria through the blue economy. I want to thank you all once again. God bless you all. God bless OAL, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you. So on this occasion, we want to draw the curtain to a close and thank you all our participants. See you next time.
Thank you. Thank you.